Hi guys, welcome back to the open source study. I hope you are finding this drone programming series interesting. And to make this drone programming series much more interesting and amazing, here is a commitment from my side. If we hit 1000 subscriber on our open source study channel, then I will start working on the videos about programming for NPNT module for Pixar and Arduino Pilot firmware. And I will publish the videos here on our channel for free. So do whatever you have to do, share the videos with your friends through WhatsApp, Facebook, LinkedIn and tag open source study. I just want 1000 subscribers for my motivation to make NPNT videos free for you guys. So you have to commit to for this. Let's say it out loud together. Hashtag open source study. Okay, so before we start, an advice for you. Do not skip any part of any video. If you are finding this course a bit lengthy, then I recommend you watch it on 1.25x or 1.5x. But don't skip anything for better understanding. So let's start the video. In this video, we will make the environment for drone programming. And what does the drone programming mean, by the way? It is like preparing a proper setup by downloading all the libraries and packages which we need for our drone programming course. So first of all, we have to choose an operating system. And as we will be working on flight controller firmware, and as you know, its hardware is a microcontroller. So it's best to choose Linux, no doubt at all. And the reason behind it is because it is a fast and more secure than any other operating system. And that is also the reason why developers and programmers prefer Linux for programming and stuff. Don't worry if you are new to Linux or don't know much of Linux, no issue. I'm here for you. By the way, we are not going to install Linux in our system. I have a shortcut for it, so just be with me. So let's switch to the system and get it started. Okay, what we will do is instead of installing Linux as an operating system in our PC, we will create a virtual environment, and how to do it is with the help of VirtualBox. So let's go and search for a VirtualBox in Google Chrome and download it for your system. And one more thing, don't be afraid that I'm using the Mac OS system and some of you may be using a Windows system. It doesn't really matter because at the end we will be working on Linux. After downloading the VirtualBox according to your platform, then simply install it with the default settings. So now we need to download the Linux operating system, and for that let's download the Ubuntu image. So again go to Google and type Ubuntu download, and from here download the Ubuntu 20.04 LTS version. Then open the VirtualBox which we just installed, and first we need to create a new virtual environment by clicking on new. It will ask you the name, so type any name. I will just write open source study and select type as a Linux and which version you want. My system is 64-bit and if yours is 32-bit, then select the 32-bit and make sure you downloaded the Ubuntu image for the same type. Click on next. So from here you have to select the RAM, like how much RAM do you want to use for this virtual environment. Means if your system is having 4 GB of RAM, then in that 4 GB of RAM, how much RAM do you want to use for this virtual environment? So if you select 2 GB, then what will happen when you open or run this virtual environment, the 2 GB of your system RAM will be taken by this and remaining RAM, which is 2 GB, will be left for your actual operating system. In my case, it is Mac OS. And if you select more RAM for a virtual environment, then there would be less RAM left for your actual OS. It will make your actual OS slow, but don't worry, it will only happen while you run virtual environment and your system is not going to be slow permanently. And if you select less RAM for virtual environment, then obviously your virtual environment will not run properly. So what is the best way? Here is what I recommend. If you are having 10 GB RAM, then you can go for 40%, which would be 4 GB. And if you are having 4 GB, then go for at least 2.5 GB, which would be around 60%. So the range is 40% to 60%. So select accordingly. Here you can select to create a virtual hard disk now. And hard disk file type, choose VDI. Here select dynamically allocated. Now you have to choose the hard disk size. I recommend going for at least 25 to 30 GB because we are going to install so many things. Then click on next and done. Then go to settings. By the way, here you can change the few things again if you want, but for now go to storage, and now we have to select the Ubuntu image which we just downloaded. To select it, click on the disk plus icon and then click on add, and then browse that file location and select it, and then hit choose and then click OK. So we have successfully created a virtual environment, and now we have to install the Ubuntu in this virtual environment. To do that, just launch it first by double clicking on it. You can see it is checking the disk and loading it to install. It will take some time. So let's install Ubuntu first. Click on install Ubuntu and then select the language and hit continue. Here select normal installation and select install third party for graphics in other option and hit continue. Okay, now you may think, what is this erase disk and install software? Don't worry, as I told you, this VirtualBox will create a virtual environment in your system. So this disk will also be kind of virtual disk of size 30 GB, which we selected while making this virtual environment. And this 30 GB will be taken from your free storage. So it will just erase the 30 GB from the free storage and then install Ubuntu, because that's how we generally install the operating system. We first clean or erase and then install fresh installation. So click on install now. Click on continue because we don't want partition and all. Here you select your time zone. By default it's saying Kolkata, so I will leave it as default. Here you put your name and password. So fill it fast and hit continue. So our installation has started and it will take about an hour to install. So go and get yourself a cup of coffee or tea. Okay, after installation it will ask for the restart, so go for it. Alright, our virtual environment is ready, and now we have to make the programming environment by installing the required packages and software for our drone programming course. So quickly log in first. You can connect your account, but I will just skip all of it for now. The first thing which we should do before moving forward, adjusting this display. And the reason is, even if you maximize the window, the size of this display will be the same. So to adjust it or to make it normal, go here, click on setting and go to display, and from here change the resolution to 16:9 and hit apply and then hit keep changes. So cool, this is our Ubuntu or Linux and we are good to go. So if you are new to Linux, then don't worry, I will explain it to you as we move forward with this course. So first open a terminal, and to do that you can hit Ctrl plus Alt plus T or choose it from here. So the first thing which we are going to do is update and upgrade the packages which were automatically installed with Ubuntu. Let's first update the packages. So to do that we have to type sudo apt-get update and hit enter. It will ask for password. Type the password and hit enter. Let me break this term for you. Sudo means super user do, and it gives the administrative and root privileges. Means it will tell this Linux system that I or the super user wants to execute this command as an administrator. Next is apt-get. It is a command line tool which helps in handling packages in Linux. And the last is update. This update will just update the list of available packages and their version. It does not install or upgrade any packages. So to upgrade those packages version, we have to give another command, and that is sudo apt-get upgrade and hit enter. So the second thing which we are going to do is to check the Ubuntu release version. So write lsb release cs And if it is saying focal or Ulyasa or Groovy or Histude, then we need Python 3 and pip3 packages. And if it says Xenial or Disco or Eon, then we need Python and pip2 packages. So let's install all the required packages and libraries. First, let's install the basic packages which we need to build the source code. And just write this command sudo apt-get install build essential ccatch g++ coq git make wget cmake and hit enter. And whenever it asks you if you want to continue, just hit Y and enter. Second, let's download the packages which we need to run CTL for our programming. So write sudo apt-get install python 3 dev, python 3 setup tools, python 3 numpy, python 3 pyparsing, python 3 pctl, python 3 pip, and hit enter. Third, let's install the graphical packages for mav proxy. And by the way, what is mav proxy? Remember, it is just a command line GCS. So to install it, just type this command sudo apt-get install python 3 matplotlib, python 3 serial, python 3 scify, python 3 opencv, python 3 wxgtk 4.0. And these are some heavy packages, so will take some time to download, so relax for a moment. Fourth, let's install some tool for writing scripts and editing files. To do that, type sudo apt-get install python 3 yaml vim and hit enter. And fifth and last, let's install some Python packages. To do that, write pip3 install future lxml pymavling mavproxy paxpect flake8 pygame intelx. Now you may be thinking why here is pip3, right? So here's the deal. Pip is used to download and install packages directly from PyPy, which is hosted by Python Software Foundation, whereas apt-get is used to download and install packages from Ubuntu repositories. Don't care about these warnings, at least for now. A serious note, don't use sudo pip. It should be avoided unless absolutely necessary. It may cause a really big problem. So here's the thing, there would be a chance that some libraries will search for Python instead of Python 3. So just to make sure that everything runs properly, run one more command. Type sudo apt install python is python 3 and hit enter. Okay, we are good to go. And don't worry if you are finding this installing command hard to memorize. I'll give a link in the description for this video material. Remember, I got your back. Now just hit the like button, and if you haven't subscribed, then please subscribe it right away. Do it now. I think we have probably installed all the packages which we will need in this course. And for now, let's remove the program that can cause some problems to our environment. To do that, write sudo apt-get remove modem manager and hit enter. So the second thing which we have to download is ArduPilot firmware. So let's download the ArduPilot firmware source code. And in order to make things organized in a good manner, let's make a new directory or folder in which we download all the software and will save our code or programming script. So in future, we won't confuse ourselves to find a particular thing. To make a new folder in Linux, you just have to write mkdir and the name of the folder. So let's just name this folder drone course and hit enter. And to see whether this folder or directory is created or not, type ls to list files and directories, and we can see it is created. So let's navigate into the drone course by typing cd drone course, and a shortcut to write this is you can simply write cd and then dr and then hit tab. It will suggest you the folder or directory in which you want to navigate. So here we are in our drone course directory. So let's check if this directory is empty or not. So again type ls to list the files inside this directory and we can see it's empty. So let's download or clone our ArduPilot source code here in this folder, and to do it, first open this browser and search ArduPilot GitHub, and then open this GitHub link, click on this code button and copy this web URL. Now come back to the terminal again and type git clone and paste this URL. And here's the thing, I am downloading the complete ArduPilot source code, means it contains the source code for all the different vehicles, but we will only need ArduCopter autopilot firmware for this drone course because we will be working on quadcopter programming and stuff. So you can avoid downloading the full source code and you can simply download the ArduCopter source code by writing this command git clone b copter and the name of the version, and then paste the URL and hit enter. Alright, our source code is downloading and it will take a few minutes to download. Again a heavy file, so make sure you have a good internet connection. So let's quickly see what is in this source code. And you can go to the file manager and then go to the drone course folder. And here it is our ArduPilot source code. Let's open it. And here is our source code for 6 different vehicles: antenna tracker, ArduCopter, ArduPlane, ArduSub, Blimp and Rover. Let's open the ArduCopter by double clicking on it. And here you can see this is the source code for an ArduCopter vehicle. And as you all can see, it is written in C++. There are so many header files, .h files and main files, .cpp files. And again, don't change anything or delete anything. It will create a very serious problem because this is very complicated source code. All these files are being called in each other files. So it's safe to move back. And this folder contains all the libraries used in this firmware. And if you notice that there is no build folder here, right? The reason is because it's just a source code. We have to build it in order to make it executable for our hardware. And how to build it? We can build it with either WAF or Make. Don't worry, we will see this in the upcoming videos of this series. And this folder contains all the modules. So open it. Right now these sub modules are empty. So we have to update this ArduPilot sub module, and to do that, go to terminal, move to the ArduPilot directory. Remember cd and then type the name of the directory or folder you want to access. And once you are in ArduPilot directory, type git submodule update init recursive and hit enter. So you can see it is cloning the submodules. Now if you go back again to the module folder and check, you will find that our modules are downloaded and we are good to go. And this folder right here, tools, is very important folder or directory. It contains all the tools which we can use and do quite interesting things. So let's open it and then open the Autotest folder. So let's forget about all these files for now. We will discuss them in upcoming videos. For this video, we need to focus on the simvehicle.py file. So what is it? This is our CTL file. In order to run the CTL, we need to call this .py file, and let's see how it works. So before we move forward, let's quickly enter some directory path into the environment variable. And for those who don't know what environment variables are, so here's the thing, if you type any command in the terminal or in the Windows command prompt, what happens in the backend? Your system goes to the paths which have been set in the environment variables and try to find out that command file which you have entered into the terminal. So suppose when you enter Python in the terminal, what do you think will happen? Your system checks its environment variable path and tries to find out the Python executable file. And if it finds, then it will open. Otherwise it will show the error like command not found. And same goes to everything. So now some of you think, But we do not edit any environment variables after we download and install any app or program. And still we can call them through the terminal, right? And the answer is, when you install any app or program, either it automatically edits the path in the environment variable, or it installs into the directory which is already present in the environment variable. So I hope you are clear now about environment variables and stuff. And if not, you can still ask anything in the comment section. Let's put the path of some folder in the environment variable so that we can call any file from that folder or enter into that folder from anywhere. And to do that, all we have to do is open .bashrc file by entering a command sudo vi. Here vi is from Vim, the editing tool package, remember? And then this sign /bashrc and then hit enter. So first of all, what is .bashrc file? Whenever a user opens a terminal, this .bashrc file will automatically run. So it basically provides a place where you can set up variables, paths and functions that you want to use every time you open a new terminal window. And that means you can define your environment variable path too. So to edit this file, hit Shift+G and hit I. So now you can see it is saying insert. So scroll down to the bottom and here we are going to put the path of our directories. So first directory would be our drone course directory, and to get the path, just open new terminal by hitting Ctrl+Alt+T and then go to drone course directory. And then enter pwd and hit enter. So copy this path quickly and go to .bashrc file. Write export drone course equal to double quotes, paste the path and don't forget to put a slash at the end and then end the double quotes. Second directory is the auto test, so that we can call and run simvehicle.py from any folder. So go to the auto test folder or directory. So here we are in auto test folder. Type pwd and hit enter. Copy this path and come to .bashrc file. Write export path equal to double quotes, paste path here and put a slash and the double quotes, and don't forget to put semicolon $path at the end. Okay, we are done now. To exit and save, we have to hit the escape button or ESC and then write :WQ and hit enter. So now we have to initialize after making the changes in the bashrc file. To do it, write source, this sign /bashrc file and hit enter. To cross check, go to the home directory and enter the sim underscore and hit the tab. Yes, you can see it is automatically suggesting the simvehicle.file from the auto test folder. So we have successfully set the environment variable path and we can call this simvehicle file from any directory. So the next thing is we need to build the source code for Ardocopter Citl, and to do it we need to go to the Ardocopter directory and call the simvehicle.file there. So let's go there. And now write sim_vehicle.py w and hit enter, and boom, our Citl is building. And by the way, this w means it will load the right default parameters for this vehicle, and it will take some time when you build it for first time. After the build, whenever you call a sim vehicle, it will open within a few seconds. So if you haven't hit the like button, then hit it right now, and don't forget to subscribe this channel. Please comment down your views on this course. It really helps me to improve few things, and it also helps the YouTube algorithm to suggest this video to new people. So please do it. Okay, here it is showing that our Citl is waiting to connect through the port. That means our Citl is running, but it is having a hard time to get access for serial port communication. So we need to do one thing, and that is to make our user a dialout group member. And what exactly is this dialout group? It is a group whose members have full and direct access to serial ports. And if we don't make our user a member of this group, then we may face the problem in serial port communication and binding. kind of similar to what we are facing right now. To do that, close this terminal and open a new one. Write sudo usermod ag dialout $user and hit enter. Hooray! Now we are good to go. So now run again simvehicle.py file from the Ardocopter folder. And you can see serial port are working and binding just fine. And we are good to go. And if you're thinking about why the hell we can't see anything, then the answer is because we haven't run any GCS. So in order to see CTL working, I mean visuals, right? CTL is still working. What we have to do is run the GCS with CTL. And remember, we install the map proxy in our system, which is a command line GCS. So let's close this and run CTL with map proxy. To do it, open a new terminal, go to Ardocopter directory and then write simvehicle.py map console and hit enter. Boom! Now you can see that we have map and console window. You can see that it is showing our CTL in some default location. And one important point, you have to always come to Ardocopter folder to run the Ardocopter CTL. Let's quickly arrange these windows first. Fine, now the steps are the same in every GCS to run or operate any drone or CTL. And what are these steps, by the way? First is changing the mode. So let's do it. Right now it is in stabilized mode, so let's change it to guided mode. To do that, write mode guided in the terminal and hit enter. Now you can see our mode has changed to guided. Okay, so what is the next step? Yes, you are right, arming the drone. To do it, type arm throttle and hit enter. And you can see in the console our drone or CTL is armed. Now the third step is to take off. So type takeoff and then the takeoff height. Let's take 10 meter. And just like a mission planner, it has disarmed our drone because it did not get the next command within a few seconds. So let's arm the drone first and quickly write takeoff command. Boom! Our drone is taking off. So again, steps for operating the drone are the same irrespective of any GCS. And if you haven't checked out the last video on the mission planner working, then you might feel confused. So go and check it out for clear understanding of GCS working. So now if you want, you can command your drone to go to any point because it's in guided mode already. So I guess that's it for this video. So in this video, we have successfully set up drone programming environment and we have also tested whether everything is working fine or not. So I guess everything is working fine. And the upcoming videos will be more interesting and amazing. So stay tuned guys. And don't forget the NPNT programming commitment, 1000 subscribers. Just one last time, please hit like and subscribe button यार. अब तो कर दो. And comment down your thoughts or anything. बस मुझे comment चाहिए for the YouTube algorithm. So see you in the next video.